We carry a near-perfect replica of the Earth in our pockets. With a few swipes, we can drop into the streets of Tokyo, trace the ridgelines of the Himalayas, or inspect the roof of our childhood home. It provides the sensation of an unfiltered, omniscient view of the planet. That visibility is powered by an orbital network of imaging satellites, massive pieces of aerospace hardware continuously mapping the globe in extreme high definition. But if you know where to look, that high-resolution feed suddenly goes dark. Across the digital globe, there are zones where the data is abruptly cut off, replaced by pixelated blurs and stark black voids. Governments intentionally draw these digital curtains to obscure sensitive locations from orbital surveillance. By utilizing open-source intelligence, declassified documents, historical records, and ground-level photography, we can bypass this censorship. We are going to target 3 specific coordinates: an Arctic island in Siberia, an isolated atoll in French Polynesia, and a Utah desert testing site. When we lift the pixelation, we find that the map is a highly curated facade. It is designed to hide extreme national security operations and environmental hazards in plain sight. Deep in the East Siberian Sea, at 76 degrees north, sits Jeannette Island. Measuring just 3.3 square kilometers, this landmass appears on satellite imagery not as rock and ice, but as a massive, solid black rectangle. The island's history is rooted in a geopolitical tug-of-war. American naval explorer George E. DeLong discovered and claimed the territory in 1881 during an expedition that ultimately claimed his life. Decades later, a Russian hydrographic expedition arrived and claimed the landmass for Moscow. Officially, mapping agencies have attributed the black box to a simple Landsat image processing error. However, open-source researchers suggest the digital void deliberately obscures a covert Russian military surveillance base. This aligns with broader shifts in global military strategy. As polar ice recedes, the Arctic has escalated into a highly contested frontier for shipping routes and resource extraction, heavily guarded by surrounding nations. The black box over Jeannette Island demonstrates how ambiguity is weaponized. By removing the island from the visual record, the territory remains untracked, allowing operations to proceed without international scrutiny. Shifting to the South Pacific, the Mururoa Atoll presents a different method of geographic obfuscation. Half of this Polynesian territory displays pristine blue waters and coral reefs. The other half, covering the inner lagoon, is violently pixelated into a hazy blur. That blur hides an extreme historical reality. Between 1966 and 1996, the French government utilized this specific atoll to detonate 193 nuclear weapons. 30 years of atmospheric and subterranean explosions deeply contaminated the regional ecosystem, leaving behind severe radioactive fallout that penetrated the soil and surrounding waters. The scale of the testing triggered massive international backlash. Environmental organizations deployed vessels directly, leading to intense physical protests to halt the detonations. Today, the testing is over, but the pixelation remains to mask an ongoing geological threat. Decades of underground explosions have weakened the atoll's structural integrity, creating a high risk that the subterranean shelf could fracture and collapse into the ocean. Because of this structural instability and lingering radiation, the territory is kept under an active military lockdown. French marine infantry continuously patrol the restricted perimeter. The pixelation of Mururoa masks a precarious, highly guarded ecological disaster zone. In the desert of Utah, the censorship takes a different physical form. There are no digital blurs here. Instead, satellite images show a sprawling, heavily restricted perimeter containing strange geometric grids separated by vast expanses of empty terrain. This data visualization shows the sheer scale of the Dugway Proving Ground. Covering 800,000 acres, the facility's footprint is roughly the size of the entire state of Rhode Island. Established in 1942, the military used this immense isolation to test biological weapons, flamethrowers, and toxic agents. They even built replica foreign villages within these sectors to measure the effectiveness of incendiary bombing tactics. But Dugway is not a relic of World War II. Zooming in, we find the isolated coordinates of active biosafety Level 3 laboratories designed to handle highly volatile chemical and biological agents. The volatility of these agents was proven in 1968 during an open-air test. An airborne release of the highly lethal VX nerve agent drifted off target, breaching the facility's containment perimeters. The nerve gas drifted into the neighboring Skull Valley, resulting in the rapid death of over 6,000 sheep across local farms. It was a catastrophic failure that revealed what the military was testing in the open air. Dugway Proving Ground uses the guise of an empty, arid desert to insulate itself. It operates in the open as a massive, ongoing laboratory for testing some of the most dangerous weapons on Earth. A map has never been a strictly objective representation of the Earth. From the earliest naval charts to modern GPS, maps are inherently tools of geopolitical power, drawing boundaries and defining reality to serve those who create them. Because modern digital data is captured and filtered from orbit, the flow of imagery is entirely bottlenecked by aerospace agencies and governments. Whoever controls that orbital feed ultimately controls the public's historical narrative. The censored pixels of Jeanette Island, Mururoa Atoll, and Dugway Proving Ground represent the darkest aspects of modern statecraft. They hide unresolved territorial aggression, the scars of nuclear destruction, and the development of biological warfare. And these three locations are merely a fraction of the digital anomalies covering the globe. There are hundreds of these obfuscated zones stretching across every continent. These digital voids mark the specific coordinates where history's most dangerous secrets are actively being protected from the public eye.